All right, so let's start with the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year Award. And briefly, my man Eddie Robinson, born February 2nd, 1919. That's the year of Red Summer. Coach Grambling for the better part of a half century. 9 Black College National Championships, 17 SWAC titles, and quite literally, right, the progenitor, the godfather of Black college football. And I think it's awesome that this award is named for him. Shout out to Hugh Jackson, who became the new head coach at Grambling just last week. And maybe one day might be in the running to win this said and sainted award. Now, let's start with the dudes that I got listed. This is my top 5, which should be your top 5, because this has been a banner year for college football coaches. And at number 5, got to go with my man, Michigan State's own Mel Tucker. All right, so here it is, right? The text here is he lost as many this year as he won all of last year. And it gets better than that for me. At Colorado, Mel Tucker was 5-7. And then he goes 2-5, 2020 Michigan State. And then all of a sudden flipped it totally on its head with a 10-2 season. And his only losses are to the 2 best teams, according to me, in the Big Ten, Ohio State, and of course, Michigan, who won the Big Ten championship game. We'll talk about them a little bit more. But it's not just that Mel Tucker was able to flip Michigan State into a 10-win program. It's that my man got the bag for his efforts. 10 years, $95 million. My tip of the cap to you, sir. But also took on a Wake Forest tailback named Kenneth Walker III and turned him into what should have been a Heisman finalist. We were talking about Kenneth Walker III for, it felt like 12 of these 15 weeks of college football because he was just that good. He was averaging over 147 yards on the ground. He was pushing toward not just being the best Michigan State tailback in 5 years, going back to Jeremy Langdon, but since Javon Ringer, back when I was in college, and Javon Ringer was laying the smacketh down like my man The Rock. Can you smell what Kenneth Walker III is cooking? Look at this, man. I'm about to cut a promo on the rest of these coaches because of what Mel Tucker was able to do. And it's doing that with what we thought was the second best quarterback at Michigan State last year in Peyton Thorne. Then he showed up and actually was outplaying Rocky Lombardi, who, by the way, transferred to NIU and won a MAC championship with Thomas Hammock, right? That's not too shabby. You also got to take into account here just how loaded their schedule seemed to be, because if you take a look at who they had to play in the Big Ten, we can make an argument that the Big Ten was the toughest conference to play football in all year this year. Also, shout out to Mel Tucker, who I did this math just yesterday. Been a head coach for 3 seasons. He won 10 games this year. He won a total of 12 before this season. And he is the dude for which made all these bets on the transfer portal that actually paid off, right? Was able to turn Jalen Naylor into a dude that you know. Went and got Scotty Hazelton from Kansas State, who was at North Dakota State to coach his defense. It wasn't that great on the back end, but it's good enough to win 10 games, even if they lost 2 during the regular season. Hello. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch them play in this postseason. Okay, number 4. We got to go with your mans at what some folks call that team up north, and what we going to call Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. Holy smokes, man. All right, so last year, we all but thought Jim Harbaugh was A, going to get fired, or B, just going to take a job in the NFL, because it just wasn't working out in Michigan, baby. It just wasn't working out. But you can see it. The headline here is Novocaine. Give him time, and it will work. And I can say that now because it has worked, because by the graces of all things, my man went out there and got a Big Ten championship game en route to throttling Ohio State at the Big House in what was frigid temperatures, and quite literally built for a Jim Harbaugh type of performance where we're going to run the ball, we're going to play defense. But when I say give him time and it'll work, take a look at San Diego. A lot of y'all don't know nothing about San Diego because why would you? It's an FCS team in the Pioneer League, which doesn't do scholarships, but all they would do is win the conference. Yes, the conference every single year, and then they get to the FCS playoffs and get bounced in the second round or whatever because, well, you need scholarship football players to win in a scholarship sport. And I shout out to the Pioneer League, shout out to Drake, the like, for doing what you do, but it's real difficult to try to win football games without Jimmys to beat their Joes, and yet that's what my man did. And then he goes to Stanford and totally gives them back their pride. He made us talk about the tree, okay? He made us talk about Andrew Luck and them at Stanford. Okay, I would think that it's a little bit more difficult to recruit to a place like Stanford than Notre Dame. If for no other reason than we know Notre Dame for like the better part of a century and a quarter. We know Newt Rockne. We know the Gipper. We know Ronald Reagan playing him in movies. We know Rudy, as much as we probably shouldn't know Rudy, but we know Rudy. You know, we also know Arnaz Battle, Carlisle Holiday. You see what I'm saying here? Some dudes out there. But we didn't know much of anything about Stanford. I mean, it was like John Elway in parts. And yet still we get Jim Harbaugh showed up there, did the doggone thing, and now is becoming the first coach in history to be NFL head coach in the Super Bowl and a college football head coach in the college football playoff. I don't care that the playoffs only been around for 8 years. We could have gone a very long time without that ever happening. And here Jim Harbaugh is doing it. And my man showed up at the Heisman finalist or Heisman ceremony where Aiden Hutchinson was a Heisman finalist. By the way, Jim Harbaugh was so good as a quarterback in Michigan, he finished third in the Heisman voting. People forget that, right? Because all we doing is talking about my man in his khakis. But also gave shine to Hassan Haskins, which I keep doing this, but I'm going to harken back to it again. At the Big Ten, media days, right? I got to sit down with Jim Harbaugh and ask him about his favorite song, among other things. But I also got to ask him, what he thought about Hassan Haskins, who he brought with him, who didn't have as much to say as a Josh Ross or Aiden Hutchinson when we were interviewing them. But he told me that Hassan Haskins is one of his favorite football players, like ever. And that stuck with me because when it came to push to shove, it wasn't Blake Corum out there. It wasn't Donovan Edwards out there. It was Hassan Haskins who they handed the rock when everybody knew they were going to run the football and went and got them 5, 7 when they needed 3 and 4. It's like that up there at Ann Arbor right now, and they're having a very good time, and they should, right? They're about to play in the college football playoff in a game that I think suits Georgia just because there's no Bryce Young over there at Michigan, and that's also to make the point even further that Jim Harbaugh was able to do this without what we think of as an outstanding Heisman finalist caliber quarterback, even if J.J. McCarthy probably should get more run. And shout out to my man Dax Hill, right here in T-Town, like Charlie Wilson. My man showing up in the college football playoff. Booker T, you on. I like it. Booker T, you on. All right. So at number 3, after Jim Harbaugh, after Mel Tucker, we got Nick Saban. Okay? Now, the flavor here is not once did he have to stop the count. All right. Pardon me if I laugh at my own joke because it's got layers, and that's where we're going to leave it. But I look at Nick Saban the way that I might look at a Charlie Wilson, quite honestly, because Charlie Wilson gave us the G-Funk, and G-Funk comes out of Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and you understand what Nate Dogg was talking about, and Master P at No Limit Studios in Louisiana, okay? What I'm saying is he keeps putting out hitters even when we're not expecting him to put out hitters. Because of all seasons for us to be like, I don't know about Nick Saban this year, dog. They look shaky. They don't look dominant. I said it. You heard me say it. You got played close by a bad Florida team. Florida team so bad they fired their head coach. Okay? Then you lost to Texas A&M with a backup quarterback starting. Okay? Giving up kick returns, touchdowns. All right? Then you get into the SEC championship game against a team in Georgia who has a generationally good defense. Don't let the SEC championship game fool you, baby. They're good. They hadn't been giving up more than 7 all year. And then with a new starting quarterback and a brand new offensive coordinator, Nick Saban said, I'm about to put 41 on Georgia's skull, fam. I'm about to drop a hammer right on their head, fam. And I'm about to run away with my SEC championship because y'all must have forgot, like Roy Jones Jr., the left hook that James Toney got a sucker move I stole from a Gamecock. Y'all must have forgot. Speaking of Gamecocks, we'll get there in a little bit. But look, it's also like this. Nick Saban is 70. Turned 70 on Halloween, October 31st. Because I'm a Nick Saban, file. Like I follow the man. I'm very encouraged by what he's done, and I think his life is worth studying. But I say all that to say, when he was 35 years old, he was a defense coordinator at Michigan State. 2 head coaches got hired last week who are 35 years old. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, shout out, and Dan Lanning at Oregon. Okay, that's how long Nick Saban's been in the game, and that's how long Nick Saban has been dominant in this sport. And I don't think he's won the Coach of the Year award since 2009, but it feels like every single year we can hand it to him for one reason or another. Look at the staff turnover. All they do is turn over dudes, and all he does is win championships because the entire program is built on him. Him. He brought the process to Alabama. They didn't do it like they do it now before he got there. And it has worked for 15 years. And now they are not just in the college football playoff again, looking to defend their national championship. They're the number one team in it because they were able to get the best win of the season in the only game that mattered for them. That's phenomenal to me, man. I was looking at this graphic the other day, and I put it out on the tweets, and the tweets seemed to like it. But the 2015 coaching staff still putting out gems, all right? Billy Napier, Florida head coach, wide receiver coach on that staff, okay? Lane Kiffin, offensive coordinator, Ole Miss head coach, okay? Kirby Smart, defensive coordinator, Georgia head coach, all right? Mario Cristobal, offensive line coach, Miami head coach, what's the Oregon head coach? Dan Lanning was a GA on that staff. And right quick on the Dan Lanning bit, just to show you what it's like for Nick Saban to pick people and how good he is at identifying coaching talent and raising leaders by being a great leader. My man Dan Lanning was a high school football coach in Kansas City. New staff at Pittsburgh had been hired. Todd Graham's coming from Tulsa there, bringing Keith Patterson and other dudes with him, but he had been to a coach's clinic with that staff. Heard they got hired. Drove 13 hours up to Pittsburgh just hoping to get a meeting. Keith Patterson offered him a GA position, which was $800 a month. He took it, okay? That was 2011. He became Arizona State run game coordinator and then left that job to be a GA again at Alabama. You have a sitting position coach job at Arizona State, a Power 5 in the Pac-12, and you left that to be a GA for Alabama, and that was 2015? Not only does he have a national championship ring, he's got his own program now. He's 35 years old. This is what it means if Nick Saban decides he wants to lay his hands on you, okay? That's that man's cloak right now. I'm saying, when you reach that upper level where your mind, body, and soul must be one, we might be talking about Nick Saban now. That's what it is. All right. And number 2 on the list, we got to talk about my man's, if not your man's, my man's, Jeff Traylor at UTSA, okay? Like Chris Cornell, you know his name. That's my favorite James Bond flick, Casino Royale, against for all y'all. It's the best, I'm telling you. But that's the point here. Before the season began, nobody outside the state of Texas knew Jeff Traylor's name, even though Jeff Traylor has Jeff Traylor Stadium in Gilmer, Texas, where the Buckeyes play. That's how good he was as a head coach in high school. And then he's just stacking wins, baby. Win on win on win at UTSA this year. Then they, get a pop not put on their head by North Texas. So that's all right. They bounce back, and they win their first conference championship at UTSA. This program is as old as Dan Lanning's coaching career. And remember, Dan Lanning is 35 years old. Both Dan Lanning and UTSA got started in college football in 2011. Holy smokes. And now we're talking about UTSA moving on up to the American here in just a little bit of time. And earlier this season, Jeff Traylor basically helped force a trend of 10-year agreements. Before Jeff Traylor, it was Jimbo Fisher started the season, which it's Texas A&M, they just be doing that stuff. They once signed Jimbo Fisher 10 years, $75 million, because that's just how they get down. But before that, mostly you needed to have won a national championship to get a 10-year deal. I mean, when Dabo Swinney signed one 10 years, $93 million, everybody's like, I guess that's a lot of money, though, even if you won a national championship. Now, Mario Cristobal, James Franklin, Jimbo Fisher, Mel Tucker, Brian Kelly. We think Lincoln Riley, though, we can't verify that or anything because, private schools and whatnot and FOIA requests. But my man forced a trend by accepting a 10-year, $28 million contract, one that he said right here on the Number One Ranked show his agent was upset with him about. He felt his word was convicted, right, to be at San Antonio, to recruit San Antonio, to try to build a football power at San Antonio. I don't know of any group of 5 coach that was able to do what he was able to do this year, which is show up 2 years into the game and make everybody pay attention to what you are doing on OTT broadcasting. Know what OTT means? It means over the top. It means we didn't put you on TV. We didn't put you on linear. You were basically on YouTube with me, and we care about you. That's what winning does, baby. That's what it does. They're 12-1. They have a conference championship, and they are building towards something special. If you can't respect that, you're not respecting college football, period. All right, number 1 on my list, and who I think should win the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award. Cincinnati head coach, Luke Fickell. All right, say a lot of things about Luke Fickell, but being the only undefeated team left of 130, that's saying a bunch. That's saying quite a bit, okay? And we're in December now when you probably should have been taking L's, okay? Now, the other part about this is little trivia. We're going to little white space here, just a little blank space here while I give you 3 seconds to actually think of the answer to this question. When was the last time, date and year, that Cincinnati lost a regular season game, and to whom? 3, 2, 1. Memphis, November 29th, 2019. You hear what I'm saying? If it's a regular season game, good luck knocking off Cincinnati, because the only L's they seem to take are in the postseason, okay? And against teams that are 100% on the OJ's tip. Can you come out and play? They took Georgia to the wire last year, and then running the table this year, plus dunking on Notre Dame, the only loss Notre Dame had this year, propels them into what is a historic, and I think not enough has been put on this fact. They're the first Group of 5 team to be invited to the college football playoff semifinals. It's not a small thing. It's one your boy has been caping for 8 years, okay? There are 130 teams playing in this sport, and we act like only 65 of them matter. Cincinnati has an opportunity here against the number 1 team in the country to show just how good the football is outside of our Power 5s, our autonomous 5. And we are going to have a referendum on Group of 5 football based on how they perform, because it's not about whether or not they win, although it would be amazing if they beat Alabama. It's that if they get stomped on the way they say Oklahoma got stomped on by LSU, it's going to hurt even more for them than it does Oklahoma. And you saw how they treated Oklahoma from the outset of the college football playoff rankings this year. Not to say they weren't right, but at the time, Oklahoma's undefeated, and the playoff selection committee's like, nah, we don't want Oklahoma nowhere near our quarterfinal or our semifinal anymore. We just don't. They embarrass us. And that's not what you want in the semifinals. You want competitive games. You want both of those games to be meaningful, impactful, and take it into the late fourth quarter, right? You want 2 minutes left, be a one-score ball game. Cincinnati can do that. We're going to see more teams get into the playoff outside the Power 5. If they can't do that, it might be the first and only time we see a Group of 5 team make the playoff, even when everything goes right for them. I also need to add in here, he lost Marcus Freeman to Notre Dame, who I had been yelling for the better part of 3 years was the best coordinator nobody was talking about. And then people started talking about him because they were able to run the table in the regular season 2019, gets a job at Notre Dame. He replaced Marcus Freeman with Mike Tressel. Yes, that Mike Tressel. Jim Tressel's relation. You know what I'm saying here? They keep it in-house at Ohio State. If you can be Ohio State light at Cincinnati, you're probably going to be pretty good, which is also another way of saying Ohio State is who they are, right? When Ohio State walks around, they might as well be Michael Beasley at the Lifetime Gym, just dunking on folks and also getting up shots talking about, I'm him, the only one, because that's how they get down. That's how they think of themselves, but that's also how we think of Ohio State. If you can be that Cincinnati, I think that's great. I also think it's important for Group of 5 football that no matter how the coaching cycle went down this year with 28 jobs changing hands, that he's at Cincinnati, okay? He could have said, no, I want out. He could have said, no, I will lowball LSU so that they come get me instead of Brian Kelly. He could have done that with USC for 4 months. He could have been anywhere else, and he is not, okay? He's going to be coaching Nippert Stadium next season. That's phenomenal, and I really love that. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.